welcome back to Let's Talk Music. It's been a while, and my sincere apologies that I haven't gotten down to releasing this episode sooner. I must warn you that we recorded this episode right at the beginning of 2022. So, given how dynamic the NFT scene in the music industry has been, a few portions might seem a little outdated. However, that said, it doesn't take away from the significant milestones that my guest in this episode has achieved. If you are an avid follower of the independent music scene in India, you will definitely know who my guest is. He made history in 2014 by becoming the first Tamil artist to release a crowd-funded album, Aragapurachi. He is known for his hard-hitting lyrics and compositions which have incredible depth and strong social messaging. He founded and was also frontman for the independent Tamil rock band Kurangan. He is no stranger to the Tamil film industry either. You would have seen his work in the movies Metro Malay, Dharala Prabhu, Rocky, just to name a few. And he made history yet again in 2021 by becoming the first Tamil artist, or perhaps even the first Indian artist, to sell an NFT of the original demo version of his song Vasanam to the infamous NFT collector Metakovan for a whopping number, roughly equaling INR 1.5 crores. Yes, I'm talking about Kaber Vasuki. I'm very happy to have Kaber Vasuki with me as my guest on this episode. Welcome to Let's Talk Music, Kaber, and thank you for taking time out to speak to me. I know this has been an episode that I've been wanting to do with you for quite some time, and I'm glad that we finally are able to do it. So, welcome once again.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Sandhya. Like I've learned so much from your podcast, from like all the previous guests that you've had on, and I've learned so much about music rights and how the law works. So I'm really excited to be here and talking to you. So thanks for having me.
And yeah, I mean, you're more than welcome, and I'm really glad that the podcast has been helpful. We've been interacting for quite some time, and even as an artist, like to be able to work with you and advise you, I've been seeing so much of you in the last like 2 years, and I think everyone deserves to know what your journey has been as a musician and how you got into music. And I'm aware of a lot of it, but I think it'll be interesting for us to like begin with an introduction to Kaber, the artist, how your journey has been so far, how you got into music as a profession, and also more importantly, the messaging you have maintained in your art.
Right. So, it's interesting that you like I guess from the outside it looks like messaging, but that like I don't think about it like that. So in any case, so I started off from a very young age. I wanted to be a writer. So I've always been writing and tried to write short stories, poems, and all of that. Some point in college, I realized writing a book is like a lot of work. So I decided that okay, it's very hard to write books. So what do we do that is like a little bit easier, a little bit more possible? That was the time when I was listening to a lot of like rock and like hip hop and whatever was popular, like all the English songs that were like popular at the time. When I came across this track called Madai Thirandu by Yogi B and Nachatra. So this was 2006. I was in college, and that time that track was like it was before like YouTube. It was before the internet was like had like 75% penetration in India and all of that. So at that time, people were sending this file to each other on Bluetooth or infrared, and it went viral like that.
Yeah.
And one day, like one of my college friends, he just like ran into my room. And he was very excited, and I heard the song on one earphone, and he was hearing it on the other earphone, and I was just like spellbound because that track was it was very illuminating for me, because up until that point, all of the Tamil songs that I'd heard were all like Tamil film songs, and that's kind of like what most people listen to. Right? When you think about Tamil music, Yeah,
Yeah.
you think about Tamil film songs, and that's great and all. But the thing with Tamil film songs is it's a commercial product, and
Yeah.
oftentimes when you're in a space where you want to listen to something honest, something, where the artist is really
Relatable
like,
also. Yeah.
yeah, really like, that that person is speaking from their heart. You want to listen to something honest like that. Tamil cinema is probably not the place where you're going to hear that. So,
Yeah. I don't think any
I mean,
cinema you will. So yeah.
yeah, any cinema is, because like I mean, it's not like, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not putting any
Yeah. Yeah.
value judgments on it, but that it's a different kind of listening experience, right?
Correct. Correct.
So for me, Madai Thirandu was the first time that a Tamil song impacted me on that level, where I felt like, oh my God, this Yogi B is like, he's talking about his journey, he's talking about his life as an artist, and that's how I discovered the Malaysian kind of music scene,
The
Tamil music
music
scene.
scene. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of inspired me to start writing in Tamil. So like the songs that I connected with, Tamil songs that I connected with before that, were all like very old songs, like songs that came out in the 50s and 60s, and that period when they would start songwriting with lyrics, and then they'd go to the melody and
The
things like that.
melody. Correct. Yeah.
So I think as a listener, I've always been drawn to songwriters, the emphasis on the writing.
The lyrics. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, 2006, I started writing songs in Tamil. And 2008, I started my YouTube channel. So that was like, I think, that was like there was a huge thing for me, because like when the minute I saw YouTube, I read, so in my college, they used to have these magazines and all that. So I read about this website called YouTube in 2006 or 7 in, I think, Time, or like one of Wired, or one of those magazines that my college had a subscription to. And I was like, wow, what is this? It's so amazing. Like, you can stream videos that, I mean, obviously you had streaming videos before, but it was always a clunky experience.
Yeah.
Once I went to YouTube, I was like hooked. I was like, okay, this is going to be like a huge platform. I kind of like had that intuition very early, but like I didn't really do any videos or anything. I just like upload my demos on YouTube.
Right.
And slowly from there, like an audience started to build. And I also had like, I was a part of a lot of writing groups on Orkut, and like, things
Oh
like
my
that.
God, Orkut.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was there. So
Blast from the past. Nice.
yeah. So after that, in 2010, I realized, okay, that I'm not gonna complete my degree. I realized that engineering is not my thing.
Yeah.
Every other
Most,
person,
a
right?
lot of artists, yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah.
So I mean, so after that, I came to Chennai. I found like a job at a startup, and I started to try to do this music thing on the side, because I didn't know anything about music, right? I didn't know how you would record. I
You're
like
not learned
any
music, so
knowledge.
to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no formal training.
From training, yeah.
And like everything I learned was through YouTube, or through like ultimateguitar.com. I just picked up like very basic guitar skills, and my so I could do everything really like poorly.
Yeah.
I wasn't like really good at any one thing. So, but
That's
I
very
knew
modest,
that
but okay.
no, but at that point it was like true, right? I think I've gotten a little better with in everything now, but at that time that's true. Like I couldn't record to a click track. I couldn't sing on key. Like I went to record at a studio that typically records like Carnatic musicians and stuff, because one of my friends
wow.
said like, "Hey, I know this studio. Let me take you there." So I went there, and the recording engineer he was a very esteemed person in that scene, the Carnatic scene.
Okay.
So he got really upset with my my session. He was super upset with it. He's like, you're not singing in key. Your guitar is not on rhythm. Like, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? And all of that. But anyway, but I had this conviction that like that my songs, like I was writing the kind of songs that Tamil cinema would not or could not produce. And I thought that there's definitely a few people at least who would like this kind of music. So that was kind of my intent from the start, is to kind of write the songs that other people probably won't think of or probably won't write, because doesn't make commercial sense or whatever it is. So I started there. Then I found like the Orkut groups that I had been a part of when I was in college. So I went to college in Tanjavur. I grew up in Coimbatore. So Chennai was like, even coming to Chennai was a huge culture shock for me. And all the online friends I made on Orkut, like a lot of them were in Chennai, and that's how I started to there was a writing group in Chennai at that time that I was a part of. We used to meet regularly and critique each other's work and all of that, and that was like my first audience. So I tested out my songs there, and then they would tell their friends, and simultaneously I was putting stuff up on SoundCloud and YouTube. So appadi vandu, that's how like slowly an audience built. I don't know where to stop. I'll just keep on going.
I mean, go ahead. Because I'm curious to know, because there is a pattern, right? Like you have, even the kind of music that you have composed and that you have written, it's not the usual. It's not just about like a heartbreak, or it's very deep. So that's why I'm going at, like for example, I think your first album was crowdfunded, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So 2010 I came to Chennai. By around 2011, 2012 I figured out, okay, there's not much happening in terms of like non-film music. So wherever I wanted to perform also, they would say, why don't you sing a few film songs first? And then like you can sing one of your songs. I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's not what I'm going to do. So I took a stand, even before I performed for the first time. I took a stand. I would never perform a film song anywhere. Right? I would not perform a song that I did not write. That was the idea. And at that time, it was like now it's pretty common for like artists to do that, I guess. But at that time, it was people were like, what are you doing? What are you saying? Like, they didn't understand it. Then in then a Koleveri went viral. That was like a huge huge tipping point moment, because when Koleveri went viral was when I realized, okay, internet is mainstream now. Like YouTube is a mainstream platform at that point.
Correct.
That was the tipping point. And then right after Koleveri went viral, Clubla Mabla went viral. So that was also
correct.
Hip Hop Tamra. So that was the track that introduced the word independent music to most people in Tamil Nadu, right? People
you're talking about independent regional music, right? Especially independent Tamil music.
Yeah. I'm not talking about any audience outside of Tamil Nadu or outside the Tamil audience, because that's my world. I don't really know what happens outside. So that once that happened, I realized, okay, like now I'm late to this party. I have to like put an album out. So I didn't know, I didn't have the financial means to do it myself. So I thought, okay, I let's do crowdfunding, because at that time I read about Amanda Palmer, and she had a TED talk, I think, where she was talking about how she crowdfunded her album. Crowdfunding was a very cool thing that people were doing in the West, I guess. So I thought, okay, let me try that.
Yeah.
And the first place that I performed at was this event called Justice Rocks, which is organized every year by Vetiver Collective. They're environmental. I don't know if I'm saying that word right. Organization. They use they do RTI stuff, and they use Google Maps data to see
to keep track of where environmental stuff.
Keep track of like corporations and people who are like basically messing up the environment.
Like
the Kodaikanal won't Sophie Ashraf. That was them.
That is them.
So Justice Rocks was where I performed first, and that led me to like meet a lot of people who were regulars there. So after that I met Siddharth Hande through that, and he was doing something called Supportive Cities at that point, which was basically was getting a little more established artists to perform, and he would collect the ticket sales would go to like a new artist. That was the model.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice. Okay.
they were doing that for a few years, and I think I was the second artist that they helped to raise funds for. At that time, I was also
Nice.
doing my crowdfunding online. So
Yeah.
all of that put together, I raised about a lakh and change.
This is what year
So
again? 2012, huh?
2014.
2014.
Yeah.
That's actually like great money. I mean, like 2014, like crowdfunding for an album, for an independent album, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I think nobody had done that before.
No, yeah.
So it
If I'm
was,
not
I mean,
mistaken, I think
I'm sorry.
was your album was the first crowdfunded Tamil album?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. Right
Yeah,
after that, like Purva did like an album, and that was on a much
right.
larger scale. Like
Yeah.
they did it on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
But I mean, they could have been, thinking about it around the same time that I was also. But I think like I did it slightly ahead of them. So
Yeah.
to the best of my knowledge, I was the first like Tamil independent like album to be crowdfunded. Then what happened was so first of all, I didn't believe that it would happen. That was like an experiment. Okay, let's see. So
Yeah.
I didn't go. I did it on this website called Fundline, which was a startup then, and since then they've
Okay.
closed. So
For you.
there is no. So I have some
Yeah.
screenshots, but apart from
Yeah.
that, like,
There's no other
was
proof.
yeah, there's no other proof. So
Yeah.
like centralized system. So anyway, so that happened, and during that time, so when I was a part of this writing group, I met a lot of people who used to like come, and one of the people I met through the writing group was this guy called Vignesh Sundaresan, right?
Metacode.
So
Okay.
yes, so I mean he was Vignesh at that point.
Yeah.
It was before he got into crypto. It was
Of course, yeah.
So
It's quite
he
early.
was working in Chennai at that time, and he used to on and off he used to come to these writing group meetups and all of that. I knew him like that, and but by the time I was doing the crowdfunding, he was already he was at that time he was in Canada, I think, and he was already into crypto. So he told me, Macha, like, I'd like to contribute to your album, but can I do it in crypto? Can I give you like 1 Bitcoin? Okay.
This is when
Being
that
the
time in 2014.
in 2014, yeah.
Oh
So
wow! You'd have been like,
being the
what is this Bitcoin?
yeah, exactly. So I was just reading that email the other day. I went back to read what I'd written to him, and I'd basically said like, bit space coin is like an amazing innovation, like whatever, but I don't know how to use it. So I'd be very, I'd be very happy if you could like give that value to me in like INR and all of that. So he contributed. I think like single-handedly, even my first crowdfunding, like his contribution was about 10 or 15% of the total amount that I raised.
Oh,
So
okay. So he's an early supporter basically. Like he's been there from the beginning.
yeah. He's been there. So he met me around the time that I was doing like my first Justice Rocks and things like that. So
Right.
we've known each other since, and I met him before he got into crypto. So
Yeah.
so we met in our early 20s basically, and it was very random, right? Like I didn't like anticipate running into somebody like that, and I probably for him also it was like that at that time. But yeah, so this whole crowdfunding thing happened. After that, like that album really didn't go anywhere, but after that album came out, it had a very small following. It also led me to meet like a few other like patrons basically. So that's I kind of realized that okay, this music itself, it doesn't have that much of mainstream appeal, or the numbers don't work in a typical, like for me to put out an album and
Yeah.
on YouTube, and like okay, like YouTube revenue is going to feed me, like my songs don't have that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So and I don't really want to, or I don't really know how to also make like mass appealing songs, and that's not my thing. So how do I make this work for me is something that, I've constantly struggled with, like especially like the financial aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time it's been basically like, okay, like I'll figure out how to sustain myself, I'll survive, right? I'll do some part-time work, or I'll get money from my friends. My family was like completely, and they were like, get a job. Like, don't hassle us. So
Yeah.
my girlfriend was like very supportive. I eventually, like, we married, but she was
Of
my
course.
girlfriend at that time. So she was like supporting me, but like in order to record, in order to like, put the music out, I needed money, and that was always coming from patrons like, Meta Cohen and like a few others who probably don't want to be named. And
Yeah.
and
Okay.
also like generally we like every time we needed money to record, I'd like, do like a kind of like a private crowdfunding. So I
Right.
have a newsletter. I'd have like a WhatsApp list of very hardcore fans. Like people reach out and say like, hey, next time you need money,
Ah.
ask me. So um because there was
So
something I
you
was
could say they
constantly
are
doing.
investors. No, I mean, these are technically investors in your, I mean, if you're looking at your art as a product, and they are investors if you're looking at it from business terms, right?
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, investors means like you have like an understanding that when or if you make a profit, you're gonna give them returns and things like that. So
Correct.
these people are giving me money with the understanding that, okay, this is this is not gonna come back. So
Okay, I
so
hear you. Yeah.
so they're not investors, they're patrons.
Yeah,
They
patrons.
believe
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my work. They think that what I'm doing needs to exist, and they understand that the market may not value it the way that they value it. So they're willing to, whatever it is, they're willing to support me. Like some people, like there's a lot of people who given me like 100, 200, 500 rupees, and like so many people like that, right? It's not just
Yeah.
like a few, like, but then there've also been patrons like Meta Cohen who would like give me more substantial sums of money now and then.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of how I figured out like the financial thing.
Yeah.
And then I started a rock band called Kurangan in
Yeah.
2015.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Kurangan was like pretty popular in Chennai. Like at least it was quite popular. We did a lot of things that uh, we proved we broke a lot of myths. I think that's the way
Correct.
to put it.
Yeah.
So uh, I don't know if I can name this person, but somebody who's very like an old I mean, who's been in this music thing for a very long time. He came
Okay.
up to me after one of our shows. I was like
Okay.
very excited to talk to him. He's like a legend. So he told me like he's been watching bands and independent music in Chennai since the 80s. And he said that there was never an artist before Kurangan, like before me, basically, where the audience would come, there'd be like 300, 400 people, and everybody would know all the words to all the songs and they would all sing along.
Yeah.
So he said that never
Yeah.
happened with original music in Chennai before. You're probably the first person to crack that kind of like an audience, is what. So
Yeah.
the reason I'm saying that is because, like, I mean, like some people, don't connect with my songs, and that's completely fine. But the people who connect with my songs, they connect with it
They connect with it all the
on a
way,
deep level.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's kind of what has been my quote unquote my messaging, I guess. So this is kind of like my journey till about
Correct.
2017, 2018.
Yeah.
Then
And then the
I
movies
started.
happened, right?
Yeah, movies started happening. I started
Yeah.
like, doing some playback work, some lyric work, some script consulting, like various things like that. And after that, 2018, around that time, I was like, still I was struggling financially, and it takes a toll on your mental health, right?
Of course, yeah.
When like you're putting so much effort and you're like spending all of your time on something, but you're not able to figure out how do I make this like financially like sustainable. I don't even like want to make like be rich or like something like that, but how do I make sure I can pay rent doing this? How do I make
Yeah,
sure that
at
I
least
can
basics,
eat
covering
food?
basics, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I want to buy a new shirt, I don't want to think about it 10 times and things like that.
Yeah.
So those are
Yeah.
the kind of like financial struggles that like I was going through. So at that time, I got married in 2015 and my wife was
Okay.
working in Singapore. She moved back. And 2018, so 2017, she said, like maybe we can go and live in Canada for a few years. Maybe you can like take a break and reevaluate and all that. Because at that time I was working at a job as I was like doing, trying to juggle like a job and like music. Uh, so I was like, okay, you know what? That sounds like a great, great idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me just take a break from everything and just like come with you to Canada. But I'm not gonna work for like 6 to 8 months. I'm just gonna chill. You have to like take care of me. So that was like my only condition. Then yeah, after that we came to Canada and like I've been traveling to Chennai on and off for work. Uh, but yeah, since 2018 Jan or so, I've been here in Canada.
In Canada. Great. But this, you understand like why the story is so important, because it kind of leads to what also brought you to all the newspapers and all the breaking news about the first Indian artist who, actually had like a massive NFT drop and picked up by Metacoven, because there is a story there. That story of loyalty is what really translates to having someone invest in your NFTs, right? And
Right.
I think that brings me to the question that follows up. How did you even get into the NFT space? I mean, now I know that you did meet Vignesh before he was even Metacoven. You had like a brief brush with what Bitcoin was supposed to be and what crypto was. But what made you take that actual step into moving into NFT space?
Right. So I have a few other friends who are in this whole NFT thing as well. One of them is another musical like artist called Praveka. So
Okay.
Praveka, he he told me about these NFT things. Like so, like what happened was like I hadn't like spoken to Metacoin for a while. I mean we talk on and off. So I think in 2018 or 2019 he told me about NFTs. That was the first time. He showed
Oh.
me these
Oh wow! So
he
that means
showed
you're saying NFTs existed back then? Like
yeah. So
wow.
the technology has been around
It was
since I
there,
think
yeah.
at least 2017 maybe
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Ethereum. There are
Yeah.
there are people who minted like proto NFTs on Bitcoin network as well. So I don't know exactly, but he showed me OpenSea and he showed me Decentraland and he showed me like crypto voxels and a bunch of things
Ah,
in
okay.
2018. So
Oh, cool.
at that time I didn't understand what he was talking about, right?
Okay, yeah.
And nobody knew who he was also at that time. Like he hadn't like become a public figure either. So I was very I've always been interested about tech. So I was just like, okay, there's a friend of mine who's like done a lot in tech. So let me listen to him. And that's the kind of vibe I was just listening to him talk about these
Okay.
things. And
Okay.
I completely forgot about it. Um, in fact, at that time, he was minting a few NFTs called Birth of Metacoven, right? Which he was giving to his friends. He was just giving
Okay.
these away. Uh,
Okay.
I think like he was just
Wow.
excited about technology or like he was doing it for
Yeah.
whatever reason. He told
Yeah.
me, Macha, I'll like just create a wallet. I'll gift you this NFT. I was like, hey, man, I don't know what any of this is. Like, I don't want that NFT.
You don't
Now I'm
want
like,
it. Oh God.
yeah,
Now you're like, why?
I
You should have just said
yeah.
yes.
Now I'm like, why? Because I was like very intimidated
Yeah. Yeah.
by this
Yeah.
whole thing, right? Like, how do you start a wallet? Because I remember in college I had a friend actually in
Huh.
2007, 8, 9 at that time. I'm not sure exactly when. It was probably like after 2008, right? Yeah. So probably 8, 9, 10. Sometime in that period, like I had a friend in college who actually told me about Bitcoin. He said, "Hey, there's this thing called Bitcoin. You can mine it. You can have a wallet." And he showed me like what he was doing. It was very, very complicated. It was not okay. Let me go here and like click a button and it pops up. No, it was like you have to do this, you have to do that. Like it was crazy complicated, right? So that was my only prior experience of somebody using like crypto, and he was mining Bitcoin and all at that time. He must have been a very early adopter. But anyway, so I just like didn't want to get into the hassle of like opening a wallet and things like that. So anyway, all of this had happened, and then like completely forgot about this. Like I was just going on with life. And when this Beeple sale happened,
Okay.
when Metacoin bought Beeple's piece for 60 million or something like that, no?
Yeah,
So
65 million. Yeah.
65. So that was when all of these videos started popping up on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's Metacoin and all, and I was like, so I read this news about somebody buying like a Beeple piece, and I
You didn't
knew
know it
about
was
Beeple.
him.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
didn't
know
know
it
it
was
was
him.
like, you didn't know Metagovan was Vignesh basically. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I didn't even pay attention to who bought it. I was just like, wow, this NFT thing,
Yeah.
like, like Vignesh told me about this like a few years back. It's really cool. And then like,
Okay. Yeah.
and then like, Praveka used to like tell me about people and all of these like artists. He told me about the Everydays project like long time back. So I had a vague idea who people was. So I was like, wow, this is like really cool. Now that, and then I read like Metacoin, and then I was like, where have I heard this name before? After
Yeah.
that, like all of the interviews started coming out, and he came out in the public, and then I was like, oh my
You're like,
god, like I'm friends with this guy. Wow, that's crazy.
yeah.
Then
Good to
then
have such
after
friends.
that I I'm sorry.
Yeah. I say good to have such friends.
Yeah. So yeah, after that, like Pravika said, like like you should put out an NFT. Like there's a few like Metacoin, but also like there's like maybe one or two other people who might like bid on it. I was like, okay, let's
do
take
it
this
types.
chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought, okay, they might bid on it. Like they may buy it. Like Metacoin might buy it because he's a
He
friend of
knows
mine.
you also. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So I mean, he knows me. He knows my music. He's always connected
Exactly.
with my
Yeah.
music.
That is the most important. More than being friend, the fact that he connected with your music is, I think,
Correct.
very relevant over here. So this was you're saying
Correct.
2019, 2020.
This was last year, right? When the NFT, like I'm bad with dates, so
Yeah, actually, I have no. Anyway, the pandemic is like the concept of time has just gone out of the window. So I think you're talking
yeah,
about like late 2020 types when the Beeple sale happened. So this must
yeah,
have been
right
like
after
early
the
21. Yeah,
early
yeah,
21. Yeah, it was the first half of 21. So but eventually for me to like get around to I went on YouTube and I tried to figure out, okay, what is a wallet, what is this, what is that, how do I mint an NFT, like, and then I actually started to understand what it is technically, right?
Okay.
And how it exists today, what the limitations are, what the possibilities are. I understood all of that, and then I realized what is the market, like why are people buying these things. So I
Yeah,
took some time to figure all of this
to
out, and
figure
then
all of that out.
I put out the NFT, and like I was thinking, okay, like 0.5 ETH or like 1 ETH is like a very high price. Let me set it there. And I kind of forgot about it. I posted on social media, and I just like forgot about it. After a while, somebody messaged me on Instagram saying, "Hey bro, congrats on your NFT sale." I was like, "What are you talking about, dude?"
Oh, you didn't even get a notification that you were just
Yeah.
bought? Wow.
Yeah, so that's the
Okay.
thing. I mean, I probably like got a OpenSea email. Just that's how
Oh, this was
well
an
I
open
keep
sea.
track
Okay.
of.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is how well I keep track of my emails. So some dude on Insta messaged me saying like, "Hey man, congrats on your NFT sale." And I was like, I said thank you to him, and then I went to OpenSea, and then I went to OpenSea,
How did
and I
he
saw
know
a
though?
bid. I don't know. Like he's probably like one of those crypto guys who's like, who
Yeah,
saw that
yeah,
I'd
yeah, yeah.
posted about
Would
it,
have
and then he
seen.
probably
Correct,
went
yeah.
and saw like what I'd posted.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, when I went, I was like, there was this bid for like 50th from Metago, and I was like, whoa. It's
Whoa!
like,
Like blown, no mind blown.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, imagine like you've been doing something for 10 years, you've made like zero paisa doing this
Yeah, and then
thing.
suddenly just compensates for all those 10 years, no?
Yeah, it's like I was, yeah, I was very, very. I mean, it completely it gave me a sense of security that I
Yeah,
never had in my adult life, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
That must
for
have
me,
been
the
a very
psychological impacts
rewarding
of that,
feeling.
yeah,
Yeah,
of that NFT sale are like very, very important, I guess.
yeah. I mean,
So that,
and I think, and obviously, so I think the in my head, what I'm thinking is the fact that you've kind of established a very niche area for yourself, like the kind of audience that you connected with, and you stuck to it. You had a certain style. There are a bunch of people who related to you. You built that whatever said and done. It was a brand, right? That's what they are.
right,
The NFT kind of. That's pretty much what it symbolizes, your brand. And so now when you created the NFT, I mean, I'm going to ask like some very basic, maybe slightly bordering dumb questions on how this whole thing works. Um,
right.
when you created the NFT, when you're saying you're minting an NFT, right? So how
Hmm.
do you do that? Like, is there any particular format, like, or does it have to be, um, like, do you have to link it to any art, or does it have to be an entire song, or is it only because I'm aware that this was like a demo track of one of your earlier
Yeah,
songs, which you basically put out, and so it was a pre-existing file which you just basically uploaded, correct, on OpenSea, and you
correct,
set a
correct.
certain price, a minimum bidding price, and then this whole process followed, correct?
Correct. So the thing is, OpenSea doesn't really host any files. So this is the thing
Okay.
that's little confusing. I think, like even for me when I did it the first time, I was super confused about this. So
Okay.
basically, like NFTs are just a ledger entry, right? It's just an entry on
Correct.
a
Yeah.
blockchain that says,
Yeah.
okay, this wallet owns this token, this non-fungible token.
Correct.
So the token itself is just a string. It's just a string of letters and numbers and letters. But what does the string represent? That's kind of like the thing. So it can represent a file. It can represent anything that you can kind of attach to it, right? So for example, if you take like a metaverse land, or like Decentraland, so each of the parcels of land on that platform are sold
Yeah.
or traded as NFTs, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
the NFT just represents the ownership of that digital asset. It does not necessarily even have a link to the asset.
Oh, so you're saying, oh, okay.
So that is
Okay.
that is like a
It's
layer on
basically
top of
saying,
it.
understood. Okay. So it's like saying, it's just like an ownership certificate kind of thing. It's not, does
Yeah.
not necessarily mean that that person has access to the actual the product,
I mean,
basically, so to speak.
like that's kind of how you build it. Usually, is you make sure that the person has access to it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
of
the
course, yeah.
point. But
Yeah.
the NFT, the on the blockchain, you go and see it. All you're gonna see is like, okay, a bunch of strings owns a bunch of strings. That's all you're gonna see.
Huh.
Or if you go to
Understood.
Etherscan,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
whereas like the person who owns that NFT will, like, you have like other, so OpenSea will allow you to put a link. So you can, when you say mint an NFT, basically it's the creating that link, right? So when you mint it, you're creating a record on the blockchain that says your wallet address has created this non-fungible token. That's what it is. And
Okay.
then you list it, etc., etc., and another wallet address purchases it from you. So it's very important, like if you're an artist and you're trying to sell your work as NFTs, it's very important that you have a public wallet with which you mint all of your NFTs. So any NFT that was minted from this public wallet, people know. Like if Elon Musk tweets on Twitter, at Elon Musk is his handle, we know that that's Elon, right? We're not.
The authenticity.
Yeah, so just like that, you need to have like a public wallet address, which is where you mint your stuff from, so people know that's like an authentic NFT that you minted. And there's multiple ways to mint also. So this whole minting thing is basically a smart contract that you're executing.
Okay.
So it's a bunch of code essentially, and if you know how to write code yourself, then there's so many things you can do with NFTs that the possibilities are like even more. But if you don't know how to write it yourself, then like a platform like OpenSea, for example, offers some basic templates that you can use. So I use like a very basic template so OpenSea, that's the service that they provide. They provide these templates that you can kind of use to mint your NFTs and things like that.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I went. But now there's like a lot more options. There's like you can do more advanced NFTs without having to code. There are no code platforms that allow you to do it. So all of these kind of things are happening as well.
So I have a question. Now I'm just, again, this is like out of my curiosity also, like, okay, so I've drawn something which I think is like incredibly beautiful. I've taken a picture of it and I've uploaded it on OpenSea saying that, I'm listing it as an NFT. Does that work? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So one important thing I forgot
of course, I have like a MetaMask wallet and it's like linked with OpenSea and all of that.
Correct. So one thing I forgot to mention is I started on this and I forgot. So you can't upload the file directly to OpenSea. You have to host it somewhere, and then you can put the hosting link as part of your token. Because generally, if it's like
is that only for music?
No, it's generally. So the thing is, like, the larger the size of your file, so the basically if you're trying to upload it on OpenSea, what you're meaning to say, I'm assuming, is you're trying to upload it directly onto the blockchain as a part of that NFT. So the perfect example is CryptoPunks, right? CryptoPunks is this NFT collection that is completely on chain. So the images that you see are generated by code that lives on chain, right? And why this is important is, if something is on chain, if something is on the Ethereum blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain is decentralized to such an extent that there is no single point of attack that will take it down, basically. Correct. So you have like this understanding that, okay, this is like
quite secure,
as permanent a network infrastructure as you can create, without having to rely on any one corporate or government entity, right?
But of course, all of this is also based off the internet.
That's there.
I'm just saying, this is me playing devil's advocate, of course, but I'm just looking at it as, technically, this is like an internet within the internet. No, that's pretty much how.
Correct.
If you have to look at it from a very.
Yeah, it's another network that's built up on top of the internet. That's my understanding as well. So if something is on chain, it is generally considered to be more immutable, more permanent. Whereas if something is hosted off chain, where like my file was hosted off chain, because the larger the file, the harder it is to put it on chain, the more expensive it becomes to put it on chain. So I hosted it on, I used this service called Pinata to host the file on, I forgot what exactly. I think so. There's basically there's basically these decentralized storage networks.
Okay.
So they follow the similar like principle of not being a centralized server. And so instead they decentralize their hosting spaces, server spaces, and all of that. And so Pinata is one of those services that allows you to create a link on one of those decentralized servers.
And these are secure, of course. Like, I mean,
These are all secure. Yeah. These are all
you can't
secure.
really alter the code there. In terms of, like, I'm saying encryption and all of that, like from a security perspective.
This is basically just like Google Drive or Dropbox, except instead of Google or Dropbox managing these servers, you have n number of people like contributing some server space, and they're holding encrypted chunks of this data, and basically, like, say Pinata will give you a link, and that link will basically call all of these different bits of encrypted data and put them together.
So got it.
It's kind of like BitTorrent in that sense.
Kind of. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Except like if BitTorrent had like a financial layer. So so that's basically what it is. So I like, my understanding is that like in computing systems, like centralized systems are relatively easier to build, and decentralized systems are comparatively harder.
Of course,
So that's one of the things that people say why this wasn't the first wave of the internet, why this is like the third wave of the internet. That's one thing that people say.
That's why it's called Web3, no?
Yeah.
So now like for example your NFT, this but specific one which was sold, can, out of curiosity, is it something which, does it have to be unique? Like, is it like a single NFT for one person, or could you have had like, say, 5 of the same NFTs?
You could. So that's the thing.
I'm saying it right.
Yeah, no, your question is completely valid. So, I think that's what Snoop Dogg did recently, if I understand it correctly. He put out like his album. I think he put out like 10,000 copies or something. Of his album. So it's basically like this digital, like in the digital world, scarcity doesn't actually exist, right? In the sense that
exactly, you can have innumerable copies. No?
Yeah, if you have like an MP3, you can just like make a number of copies of it. What is different with this NFT thing is, and this is where like a lot of people get thrown off. This is why I said the public wallet is also important. So it's my wallet has created an ownership certificate to a file, and I have transferred that ownership certificate to a Metacoin's wallet. So now let's say, for example, like Leonardo da Vinci was like an artist, right? And let's say like NFTs were around at his time. Like if he could take like an ownership certificate for the Mona Lisa, and sell it to somebody, so then you have this like authentic chain of transactions, right? So even if the painting gets stolen, we have a record of who all of the owners were, and nobody can say, okay, I own this painting in public, because like, okay, you don't own the painting, dude, because like I can go and verify this chain of ownership and your name's not on it, so you probably stole it. Right?
Or it could have been like a copy.
Yeah, it could have been a copy.
I mean,
exactly.
It could have been a copy. So I'm assuming the same logic applies in this distribution, but it's a lot tougher to actually, come up with a duplicate or like a fake or a pirated copy because of this authenticity certificate that is encoded into the file, right?
Correct. No, it's not encoded in the file at all. Once again, like it's
not file, but in terms of like
the blockchain,
because it's on the blockchain.
Yeah, it's a publicly verifiable record. That's what it is. So now even if somebody else has access to the file itself, we know that the owner of that file is like Metacoin.
Correct.
So, but yeah, like I don't think anybody else has access to it. Like as far as I know, I had it and then I put it as an NFT. So, but yeah, that's basically that's basically the thing. So, this is like this was like how the market started off last year. People were doing collectibles, right? So there was people were buying like I think of it as a new kind of patronage model.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
I
So
don't think it replaces Apple Music or anything at this point.
no, it doesn't, because this is like
Yeah,
it's exactly like what you said. It's like how if in terms of like how a Patreon would be, if like
correct,
you have people who are contributing to an artist because they believe in that person's art, and
correct.
what they're getting in return is something which for them also increases in value, and they're looking at it is in now in these terms you could call it an investment, because there is a certain value that they have attached to your art.
Correct. So if more people attach value to it and more people
Yeah,
feel like, I wanna own like a NFT by this artist, then
yeah,
the value for that particular NFT might increase. And that happens like there are people who will get in early on like certain NFT projects and buy them and just to flip them because they know that the demand for it is much higher. So that whole like trading aspect of it
yeah,
also exists.
exists, yeah, of course.
Whether that exists for my particular NFT is like highly questionable at this point. But in general,
but
like conceptually,
but
it does exist.
you do realize that your how you're going to be valued has changed significantly after this purchase, right?
Correct.
Because
So it
yeah,
has changed. I'm sorry. Go on.
no, I mean, basically saying that the investor who is also Metacoven himself is identifying, say he has invested in your NFT, people's NFT, and all of it is being valued at a certain amount so that it is only going to appreciate. So I think that's
Correct.
great for in the art and music sector to have something like this, because that's the way forward for artists to continue surviving and to keep investing in themselves and creating more art. There has to be, and also knowing that having a niche loyal fan base can translate into something a lot more meaningful. And it's not
Correct.
just about, I mean, of course the money is very very important, but it's also validation for what you're putting out as art.
Correct. Correct.
And which brings me to the point which what you mentioned about ownership. So now, does that mean that Metacoven owns the composition, or how does this work in music copyright terms? Would
Yeah.
you
So
have an idea on how that works?
there is no nobody knows how it works at this point. So
Okay,
that's the honest truth of it. So uh, it is what
great.
you
Maybe we
make of
can like
it.
change that. Yeah, it is
Yeah,
maybe what you
yeah.
make of it. Okay, okay.
Yes, it is. So there are I haven't followed this in the last like couple of months, but a while back I read about a bunch of players in the NFT space coming together to figure this out.
Okay.
As to how NFTs intersect with IP laws.
Yeah.
And I don't. So like we can look at what has happened so far, what people have done so far. So if you
Yeah.
take Bored Ape Yacht Club, right, which was Yuga Labs is the development studio that developed Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Okay.
So they made these characters, these 10,000 like algorithmically generated characters,
Okay.
monkey characters, and they
Oh
sold
yeah.
these NFTs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now what they did after they sold these NFTs, they basically said these characters, you own the rights to these characters. So if I have the NFT, I own the right to that character. So I could license the likeness of that character into like a mobile game
Merchandise.
or a
Ah.
comic book or like a movie, right? And
Yeah.
there's
Okay. So in
there's
copyright
projects
terms, that's
that do just
basically
that.
like the actual. Yeah. Okay. Continue. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so there are people who have a character, and so now then if I buy a character, right, um, that character is as valuable as I can make it. let's say I give it a name and I give it a persona online and I put out funny tweets every day and like, like suddenly I have 1 million followers or something like that. Now that image of that monkey has some value. If I build a brand around that monkey, for example, and lots of people have done this. This is not a potential that could have. This has already happened. So that's why I'm saying this. Yeah. And then they can license it into games. They can license it into books or like whatnot. So they're doing all of these kind of things.
And just sorry to interrupt, but you're saying when they're saying you can license them to games or books, you're saying in the real world, not in the metaverse, correct?
Yeah, in the real world. I mean,
in the real world. Okay.
Yeah. They could also be metaverse games as well, but so they have an Android app now, Android game, I think called Apes vs Mutants. I'm not sure if it's out for like public to play, but I vaguely read about this on Twitter. So I'm also not like super informed about everything. I'm just telling you what I know.
Please,
probably lots of blind spots
to learn on this.
in my knowledge. Yeah. So as far as I understand, like there are people who are trying to they license like some of these monkey images and they'll. So now what happens is like let's say that monkey image has been like my one monkey image that I bought has been licensed across like some 10 different things, and now that if I sell that monkey image, I'm basically transferring all of the rights and future royalties to the new owner. So that's like one way that things are happening.
Okay.
Like another thing that within the music space, another thing that's happening is people are basically tokenizing future revenue streams. So this rapper Nas, my understanding of what he did something a few months ago. My understanding of it is he basically sold a stake in the royalties of his new album to his fans. So you could buy like 1% of. You can basically be a part owner of that album.
Owner of the album, correct? Yeah, I was going to get to that, but thanks for bringing it up. Yeah.
So whether that represents intellectual property rights, like I don't know. Like I mean, it represents royalties. But when they say royalties, I don't know what they're talking about. Like streaming revenues and mechanicals. Like, does it include like, what else does it include? Like, if somebody if there's a sync deal that gets done on the song later, is that a part of that royalty stream? I don't know. So those are things that you probably have to go and read the terms and conditions very carefully to understand.
And no, but that's it's opened up like a whole bunch of questions, not just in my head, but I'm sure wherever I've looked, nobody really has answers into this because there are so many different models that can be approached. I don't know if you've heard of this app called VEZT. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it was basically you had songs which were available to be invested in. So if I spend $50 on say a Justin Bieber track, and I could get X amount, and I'd get like a percentage of royalties from that track. Now, whether that was royalties from the master rights or the publishing wasn't very clear. But I have a feeling, I feel the NFTs in music will also kind of work in a similar fashion, depending on how the artist wants to list it. So if you are looking at actually having someone have ownership in your track, it will depend on the terms and conditions that you have when you're issuing the NFT, which I'm assuming there are. Did you have anything like that when you listed your track on OpenSea?
Yeah, I had nothing like that.
Wow.
Basically uploaded a file on Pinata and then put that link and minted it.
And then that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my case, it was very different. Because mine, I think Metacone bought it because number one, he wanted to support my work. And for him, I think he thinks of if you look at all of the his collection of NFTs, you'll find that there's very few that that he's bought that are kind of he doesn't flip NFTs. He doesn't buy and then sell them. He doesn't do that. I think for him, it's more of let me
Collectibles?
let me support projects and artists. Like, let me fund the things that I really think should exist in this world, by collecting them. I think that's how he thinks about it. I'm not very
Yeah.
sure. I can't speak on his behalf, obviously, but
Yeah.
from what I've seen him do, and the way that I've seen him talk about these ideas on, like, on YouTube, on various platforms, this is my understanding of his perspective. So I
Yeah.
think that's a very different kind of NFT collector,
Collector,
right?
correct.
Um,
Yeah. This was, in fact, something that I had discussed in the previous episode as well, about the categories of collectors, like people who are collectors and people who are traders, NFT traders. Like they'll buy
Correct.
an NFT and then like you said, flip it for a particular or maybe a higher value, on and which the original artist actually gets a share in that sale, like a percentage
Correct.
of that sale.
Correct.
So and which is why I find this entire universe fascinating, because there's so many opportunities for an artist to grow, not just as an artist themselves, but also as an investor slash trader. So, like, now since you've been acquainted with this space, you have a better grip of it than most people do, at least from whoever I've spoken to. And trust me, I've spoken to a lot of people about the NFT space. And if you had to, like, kind of give advice, and like if someone who wants new upcoming artists or existing artists, people who have like an established following, what would be your, like, what would you advise them to do first if they had to get into this space and start looking at it as an actual legitimate source of income?
Right. Um, so it obviously it boils down to who your audience are and your connection with them, and how interested you think they are in crypto, and NFTs, like, so, like, I think a few mainstream film people have also, like, gotten into the space and tried their hand at it, with varying results. I mean, I haven't kept track of it a lot, but I don't know. Um, I don't know how, like, so I know my audience, right? But I don't know in general what the market for NFTs is like. So I know that among my audience, a lot of my audience are very tech savvy. They're people who in general, if they're listening to my music, they place some value at least on discovering things on the internet. So that's the kind of audience I have. So you have to know what's right for you and what's right
Know
for
your
your
audience
audience.
also. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
So
it's important for you to know who your audience is, what your target audience
correct,
is.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Because I know some friends of mine who are artists who they believe that if they do an NFT, they'll alienate their audience. Right? They feel like their audience will
Not
hate
relate.
them. Yeah, because of because there's some people who have this whole, like, concern about the energy costs of, like, running a blockchain and things like that, right? Where they think, like, okay, if you're minting NFTs, you're, like, there's so much, like, greenhouse gas emission because of that,
Oh,
etc., etc.
wow.
So
That's a different
so if
angle
you have a
altogether. Didn't even go there.
yeah,
Okay.
so I have a
Okay.
friend who's an amazing artist, and I kept asking him, why haven't you gotten into this? He said, dude, all of my audience, a lot of them are very conscious about the environment and all of that, and they may I have a feeling that if I do this, they may not like it, and so, I mean, that's his perspective. I don't
Perspective, yeah.
completely agree with that. I think he's misreading his audience, but that's a different conversation. So if you so and I also think you should explore, like, a lot of the possibilities. So, for example, there's this artist called PAK. Okay.
Okay.
um so this is like an anonymous artist, right? He has a Twitter handle. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called I am Pack or like something. But if you Google it, you should get it. So this person, nobody knows who they are, right?
Okay.
But they have made upwards of $80 million in NFT sales last year.
Oof. Wow.
Okay.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah, and they didn't sell one or two; they sold like hundreds of NFTs. And this is the thing, though, they're making games out of this. So the thing is, you don't buy a pack NFT because it's like you like their work. I mean, this is their work. You get what I'm saying? This person like designs
Okay, I know what you're
these
saying. Yeah. Okay.
designs these experiences. Like once again, I'm probably not the best person to explain what they actually do because I can't wrap my head around some of these things. But like one small example is they put out like these bunch of like tokens which you could like NFTs basically, which you can take, like if you have them in your wallet and then you log in on their website, you can burn those NFTs in exchange for some fungible tokens. And there was this whole angle about who's gonna burn it and who's not gonna burn it, and like if you burn it first, you're at a disadvantage, but you're giving an advantage to somebody else. Something, it was like a very like
Wow.
game thing. Okay,
Okay,
like
a lot of this went right over my head, to be honest.
yeah,
But
no, the way that I'm explaining it, like I know that I'm not making a lot of sense. So like yeah, I
no,
encourage you to
to
Google it
read
and
up a
try to
little, no, I know.
yeah
Yeah. So,
yeah
and no, it's not about the way it's not about the way you're explaining. It's about the fact that, I realize that there is so much that we need to understand. And it's not as simple as just like jumping into it overnight and having your
correct.
NFT sold at like this, massive amount. There is a lot of
Correct.
groundwork that goes into it. Yeah.
That is ground. So you need to have like an odd, and basically how do you engage with your audience using this technology? That's it. So anytime, I mean,
Exactly.
if you take YouTube, like the kind of videos that people used to upload on YouTube in 2008 and the kind of videos that get uploaded on YouTube today, like there's a
Yeah, very
huge
different.
change, right? As
Yeah.
the technology matures, as more people get onto it, we kind of realize what the potentials of this technology are. Like initially in the like when YouTube first came, there was a lot of like, people were doing like choose your own adventure, like video series. There were like
Yeah.
long form narrative formats that people tried out. But now, like you kind of YouTube, like everybody uses it differently, obviously, but long form narrative is not something we go to YouTube. We probably go to Netflix for that, right? So
Correct.
how this space will evolve is like, I don't know. So for example, like there's NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain, then there's NFTs on the Tezos blockchain, there's NFTs on like multiple different blockchains, right? And each of these blockchains has their own kind of economy. So like something that is on the Tezos blockchain is generally in dollar terms like cheaper than what is on the Ethereum blockchain, just because like the Ethereum token, like it has a higher demand.
Correct.
So
Correct.
there's like all of these things as well, and then there are like companies that are trying to simplify it for like artists and like buyers and all of these things. So I think just putting out an NFT and expecting that somebody will buy it, I think that time has passed.
Yeah.
Now I think
Yeah.
you need to figure out how to build an
plan.
experience around it. Yeah, how
Exactly.
to make it a part of. So like this band Swaratma did something recently.
Yes.
They
On
they
Fantico.
sold
Yeah.
Yes, so they sold NFTs for. I actually put a bid on it. I have to check what happened. So anyway, they were like doing. They were doing. They were giving away like a live session. Like you could jam with them, or you could meet them after a show, something like that. That's what the
Yeah.
NFT represented.
Yeah.
So those are like some interesting use cases as well. Like some other people are doing like exclusive tracks. So I mean this, we discuss royalties, and so there's all kinds of things that are happening.
Yeah. So
I actually like I have this thought that NFTs may become like a background thing that are used for calculating royalties due. So for example, like today, if I'm a songwriter, I have to register with, in India I have to register with IPRS, who will
IPRS
collect
yeah.
I don't know what exactly they collect, but I have to.
Performance royalties, yeah.
Yeah, performance royalties. So what if like performance royalties were like an NFT, right? So then you can automate that entire system. You don't need a collection agency.
Correct.
Or
Yeah.
like how about sync rights? So if Netflix has like a way to pay out sync royalties on NFTs, then I can just like sell it, my sync rights as NFTs, and whoever like can buy it and use it within their film. And like once it gets distributed onto YouTube or Netflix or whatever, that platform will basically just read the NFT token number, like figure out, and start giving streaming me my income in real time, right? So that is also
Yeah.
these are the kind of, I think, use cases that I'm very interested in, where it cuts away a lot of
And
um, unnecessary middle layers. Yeah. Th- so
yeah.
yeah. So those are the
And
things that I'm very excited to see if they will happen. I don't know if the incentives are there in the market, but I'm sure somebody will like figure it out and then it'll become a new thing.
yeah. Because
But
honestly, I think the possibilities are endless. I mean, just within this conversation, this 1 hour that we've been speaking itself, like my mind has been racing because I'm thinking of, okay, so that means I can actually have someone, so an artist can actually like release an album through NFTs and actually have people invest in his or her album with ownership rights. You can also have sync, where you're basically syncing your song to an existing art or existing visual design, which is then released as an NFT. There's so many things that can be done, right? And
yeah,
I think that is what makes it so much more exciting for the creative community.
correct.
And so you can very safely say that this is you're looking at a legitimate source of income over here. This is not
Yeah,
like a could be income source if you plan it well, and if you have like a dedicated set of loyal fans and you build that fan base, you can actually see that translating into something a lot more meaningful in the metaverse and with your NFTs, correct?
correct. So it's just like anything else. So like in 2008, if you ask somebody, how do I use YouTube to, to make my songs popular or whatever it is, like
Yeah,
you would have gotten like a lot of like different hypothetical responses. But if you ask
correct.
today, like there's like very evolved established processes that you need to
Correct.
do in order to crack the YouTube algorithm, right? And
Yeah.
likewise with Instagram or like, I mean, think of it like YouTube can suddenly say, oh, tomorrow, okay, you know what, like anybody can buy a video as an NFT. I mean, if they do that,
Oh
then
wow.
like
Oh my God.
imagine like, okay, maybe if you buy like some video, you get like a percentage of like the revenue from
Streaming
that
revenue.
video.
Yeah, from
Yeah, or
YouTube
something like that,
royalties.
right?
Wow.
Or maybe Instagram can say, okay, right next to the like button on each post, we're gonna put like a buy NFT button, so you can buy
Oh,
like, you can buy your favorite artist artwork right on Instagram.
yeah.
And maybe you get like, if all of the printing, like if they use that design on a t-shirt, then you get some percentage of like the t-shirt sales or whatever.
Merchandise. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's crazy.
yeah, so once
Yeah,
once it becomes more integrated into, and that's the thing, like we
mainstream. Yeah.
because we grew up with like Orkut and Facebook, this is like how we think about it, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
kids are like using the internet differently is what I hear. I don't know.
No, that's
So
true. Because I mean, 12-year-olds are already billionaires because, like, kids who've been playing Fortnite, they've established an actual empire for themselves. They're loaded already and they understand exactly how this works because it comes very naturally to them. So it'll take
correct.
us a little more time to like figure it out, but I'm sure we'll get there. So, you know,
Yeah.
uh, have you invested in any NFTs yourself?
Yeah, I came across a few projects that I thought were very interesting. They're more like I like two or three different ones, but uh, but yeah, I don't want to talk about it publicly. I do it like
No, that's
from a
fine. That's fine.
different
But yeah,
wallet.
yeah. But is it
But yeah.
music related or like art, or is it like a mix of all of them?
Okay, I think I can talk about like one of them. So there's one project called Warp Audio,
Okay.
WARP, warpsound.ai, I think is their website. So they
Okay.
have, once again, this is not like financial advice or anything, but they have
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so they have these bunch of characters that they've designed,
Mm-hmm.
along with uh, some AI generated music. So
Oh.
yeah, so what is really interesting to me about that project, like the whole NFT aspect of it, I think is a way for them to build an early community around like the product that
Community.
they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, around.
Yeah.
But I think what's exciting for me is that they're trying to build, I think one of the things they're trying to do, from my understanding, is that they're trying to build music AI software that is
Mm.
accessible to music producers and people like that. So
Wow.
that is a very interesting area for me, and the way that they're going about is very like fun and like very Web3 and NFT thing.
Mm,
So that's
mm,
something
mm.
that I just like bought one to see what will happen. Like I don't do this flipping thing because it's
Yeah.
extremely stressful.
Yeah. No, it's like
I'm
stock market trading, no? Same
yeah.
concept. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like, I don't like, even with like stocks and like, I like to just buy and hold on to things. I don't like
Yeah.
selling them and
No,
all
I
that.
hear you. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I like, for me, like it doesn't matter even if this goes to zero. I just think this team and their idea and their approach is very interesting, and I want to see what they do.
See where it goes. No?
Yeah, and if you have like, if you're an NFT holder, then you can, if you email the team, they will respond to you, right? Because
Mm, mm.
that's what that NFT gives you. It gives you access to that team. It gives you kind of like early trial, early membership. You get
Early
like,
members.
you get to demo these things much ahead of anybody else.
Mm. So
I
kind of
think
like a Kickstarter campaign, so to speak, but in
kind of, yeah.
like
So,
kind of. Yeah.
the only thing is like, because of regulations and where they're placed, they
Mm.
can't necessarily call you an investor or give you
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. Yeah.
stake. So
Yeah.
all of those like regulatory
Yeah.
aspects
It's
of it,
not stock investment. It's like
correct.
investing in principle, like in the idea itself. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So it's,
I had another question.
yeah.
I should have asked it long back, but more out of curiosity. See, when you're talking about all, and when someone has invested in your NFT, and there is, you have X amount of crypto with you, how does
Right.
that really translate into actual physical money? This is a question a lot of people have. By the way, they're just
Okay.
like, so what
So
if I have like 100,000 Ethereum with me? Does that mean does that actually make me financially secure, or is it a possibility of being financially secure?
no, you can sell that Ethereum for real dollars on like an
Ah,
exchange.
correct. So that
So
is, so
that's
it's a actual legit source of income, right? You can survive physically in the real world with it.
correct. No, it's an asset. So it's like
Yeah.
somebody is giving you like a bunch of stock in return for like something. It's like, I mean, it's not like stock exactly, but
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
so if you own Ethereum tokens, what you're essentially owning is a part of the Ethereum network.
Correct. Yes.
So that's the
So
whole
there's only a
confusion about
limited number of
Ethereum
Ethereum
tokens. Correct.
circulating in the system, right? So yeah, understood.
Correct.
Got it.
And in order for
And
you
it,
to build or use the network, you need to pay gas in Ethereum.
correct. And the value of the Ethereum also keeps changing. And I'm saying Ethereum right now, but that applies for any crypto, right? Like whether it's
Any
Bitcoin
crypto,
or whether it's
yes.
Doji or any of those.
Correct. If
Uh,
if there's more demand for it, the price goes up.
price goes up.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If there's less demand for it, the price will drop. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's like, I don't know like deep enough to say why the price goes up or whatever. But
That's how
I
stock
like,
markets work. Yeah, like this whole supply demand thing itself, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's basically that's what it is. And the demand is driven by the fact that you need to burn Ethereum in order to use the network. So if you
Correct.
believe that more and more people are going to use this network for more and more things in the future, then
Yeah.
you would be, you would consider it a smart decision to hold on to
Correct.
it, right?
To hold on to it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of like my belief. Like, yeah, I may be right, I may be wrong, but let's see.
No, I have a feeling because it makes sense. It's like if at the end of the day, it's all economics, right? It's like
Yeah,
the theory of supply and demand would apply here as well.
correct.
And so there's a lot of common sense, I guess, we have to like kind of apply to how this whole system works. But apart from that, if there's anything, can you recommend any sources or like any websites or magazines that people can read to understand, like including people like me? And the simpler, the better, like Dummy's Guide to Crypto, Dummy's Guide to NFTs kind of versions. But
Right.
that would be great if you could like, recommend some resources.
So the thing is, because this is like such a new space,
Yeah.
there's very little. So how generally things are organized, I can like kind of lay out my understanding of it. So one is, if you want to understand like how the technology works or like what it is, etc., there's a lot of like really cool animated like explainer videos on YouTube. So those are
Yeah.
your best bet in order to understand what a blockchain is, what is an NFT, that kind of basic stuff, right? And even if you want like mint an NFT or like buy an NFT, like you have tutorials, like people like show you how to use a wallet, how to mint, how to buy things like that. So those kind of things are on YouTube. If you're interested in like figuring out, okay, what is a cool project to invest in, NFT project to invest in, or like trade or things like that, then YouTube is. I don't think YouTube. You should stop. You can maybe like find some stuff on YouTube, but you shouldn't stop there. What generally happens is you have like Twitter and Clubhouse are the two main places that people build these communities on. So you have like
Okay.
like anybody who has like a
Twitter?
dot.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, anybody
Okay.
who has like a .eth in their Twitter username, or a I think .eth is the most popular one. They're probably in this like space. So like if you start off by following like a few popular people. You can start with like, so what I did, I'll tell you. I started with Meta Cohen. I went to his profile on Twitter, and then I saw, okay, who is he following? And I like, and like in that list of people were like few people, you'll have like bios, I'm a crypto
Correct. Yeah.
person or whatever. So based on that, like I followed like a few people, and then from there, like who do they follow? And then I followed those people. And once you follow like some 10 to 15 people, or like even a little bit more, you'll start, these Twitter Spaces notifications will start popping up, and each of those spaces will have like a heading, like NFT hangout, or let's talk about photo NFTs, let's talk about music NFTs. You have all of these different spaces that will happen, and then like you just go and like hang out in these spaces and you listen, and somebody will say something about one thing or another, and then you can go. So that's the thing, like, because there's so many projects
Basically, yeah.
being launched.
Correct. Yeah.
And so eventually over a period of time, you'll figure out, okay, this website is like, so there's rarity. There's certain websites where you can go and see rarities of NFTs. There are some people who are like pretty trustworthy. And if they're like, if they're like championing a project, it's generally a safe bet. Right? Like, I mean, nothing is a safe bet in the space. Like, relatively, what I mean safe is that, okay, it's
Yeah,
not a
I know. I
scam.
know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, it's not a
they're
scam.
not,
Yeah, correct.
they're not going to take your crypto and run. So that's basically how I do it. And then if you find a community that you really are interested in, like for example, the Warp Audio community, like some like that project is very interesting to me. So I am on their Discord, and I follow like whatever they're like posting and things like that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's
I've heard
basically.
Discord is also quite a popular place to,
Yes.
you know,
So
find and
everything
track.
like in the crypto world, in the Web3 world, most of these conversations are happening on Twitter, Discord, and to a lesser extent, in my experience, on Clubhouse. So it's a very text and audio kind of thing. Because
Again, niche. It's a niche crowd of people. It's
yeah,
not. It's
yeah,
not like an everybody uh, market. Yeah, I get
yeah.
that.
As of now, yeah. But I think like over a period of time, like it'll become more mainstream.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, but it's going to take some time. The fact that discussed in the last 1.5 hours, I think it's blown my mind. And I've made like so many notes. I scribbled down. I said, okay, I need to like read up on this. I need to find out more
Yeah.
about this because I discussed in the last 1.5 hours. I think it's blown my mind. And I've made like so many notes. I scribbled down. I said, okay, I need to like read up on this. I need to find out more about this because I have like a massive FOMO. I don't want to like miss out on things which are like trendy, and especially if it's tech related, because I really enjoy all of this. But
Right.
I've realized that crypto and blockchain is something which I have a lot of catching up to do on, evidently. So and on like, last thoughts on your journey so far, and given your relationship with Metacoin and now your entry into the NFT space, what are your plans? Like, how do you see yourself? Are you putting out more NFTs? Like, do you have anything going on right now? And now, since you're in Canada as well, I'm not sure how crypto works over there, but in India, crypto is still like a bit of a gray area, though they basically said that any income from crypto is taxable, which is fine. But I just wanted to hear your thoughts on what your plans are going to be like.
Okay. So I'm like super confused basically. That's kind of like my that's kind of like
Your
my
theme,
mental
no?
status at all time. Yeah. I'm always like in like confusion. I overthink things, and I invent the things to worry about which don't exist. So that's kind of my it's kind of who I am. In
All good,
Canada,
man.
like it's a little bit clearer. The law is a little bit clearer. With basically like it's taxable. They think they think they are calling it digital assets, and they're saying like
Yeah.
any kind of barters, selling whatever is like taxable. Depending on how you do it, it can be classified as capital or income.
Yeah.
And all the tax rates that apply generally apply to crypto as well. That's all. I think they're cracking down. If they so the thing is, blockchains are public ledgers, right? So one of the interesting things that happening is that governments and like corporations, because they've been getting in onto this, they're building like these data analysis tools that
Oh,
analyze blockchains for information, right? So
okay.
they're able to they're able to figure out certain patterns that give them an indication that okay, such and such person might be evading taxes or whatever. Like I don't know exactly how they do it,
Oh,
but
wow.
my understanding is they're
Okay.
building the tools for this. Like these tools are being built, and governments are getting very active, more vigilant in this space than they have been. And in terms of KYC requirements for exchanges and things like that, those have become like pretty stringent across the world. So so I think it like uh, that is like a common thread across the world. I think
Yeah,
different
yeah,
countries
yeah,
are
it
like in
is.
different spots, but yeah, there's kind of a common thread. What I'm planning to do, so initially I thought like of a few different NFT ideas, but every time I think of an
Yeah.
idea, like the week after that, the market changes. Like people, the NFT
It's very
market, like
dynamic that
somebody
way.
does
Yeah, I
something
get
way
it.
cooler, somebody
Yeah.
innovates like in a way that just makes my idea obsolete. Um,
It's
So
very dynamic that way. Yeah, I get it.
yeah, so I feel like because I've already done this like one big sale, I also feel a little bit of pressure in the sense that I don't want to do something and have it like kind of like disappear without a trace. so
Yeah, yeah.
so I've been basically sitting back and seeing what's happening. Um, I've been focusing on like my work. It was basically like music and like writing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, like during the pandemic, like there was no work, absolutely no work. But now, like after the pandemic, I've started getting like a few more projects and I'm getting some regular work, so that's keeping me busy. So like this,
Okay.
like for me it was first like it was crowdfunding, then like I identified social media very early on, but I kind of like made a little bit of use of it, but I feel like still don't understand social media as deeply as some of my peers do.
Yeah.
um but now it's like
You,
NFT
but
and crypto.
yeah, you understand NFTs, so social media should be a breeze for you now.
Yeah, in the sense that um
No,
how
no,
do
I
I
get
how
it.
do
I
I
get it.
say this?
I'm just yanking your chain. It's
Yeah,
okay.
but like
No, yeah.
I don't know. I'm saying like in terms of creating content that will be popular on social media, right?
Yeah,
My
yeah.
brain doesn't
The
work
whole
that way.
virality thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So my brain doesn't work that way.
But think
Um,
of it like this: it's because your brain didn't work that way that you also had your connection with Metacode. Because if you were
yeah,
like the mainstream commercial or like the so-called popular artists, then none of them really have that kind of a presence on the NFT. And NFTs are the way forward. So,
correct,
and
correct. No, no, I
I'm
mean,
sure like yeah, the need to
I
stay relevant I understand, like to constantly
correct, correct,
innovate and be relevant so that you keep sustain that interest in what you do. I
correct,
think that is every artist's bane, so to speak.
correct,
But
correct. Yeah. So that's kind of like so I'm not very actively developing any ideas or doing anything of that sort. I'm just kind of like seeing, okay, what all are people are doing with this technology? Like, how is it evolving? Because every day, so like initially it was collectibles, then it became these profile picture projects. Then like these membership NFTs have become like a thing now. So like for example, there's this influencer called Gary V.
yeah,
So he has like a bunch of NFTs that give people access to him, to his time and whatever. So if you have like a Gary V NFT, you can talk to Gary V or you can meet him in person or something like that.
yeah, because he's the brand, no? He
Correct.
himself is the product. Yeah,
Correct, correct.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, so there's all of these people are doing these very interesting, like, ideas. So I'm just waiting to see, okay, um, like I I have a few instincts about how NFTs will be used by the music industry. But because I'm not a tech person and that's like I just whenever I have an idea, I'll write like a long ass essay and send it to like a bunch of friends who like who are like in crypto, and then I'll get no responses. But um, but
Maybe now they will.
yeah.
We'll promote this episode and say, please, friends of Kaber, please respond to his mails.
Yeah, so
But
that's
yeah,
that's kind of and like I'm just watching and waiting to see what happens, and like
yeah.
if I see something, and also like I'm also waiting for it to become like a much more of a common thing, I guess, within like the Tamil art space. um
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, let's see.
Looking forward to it too. But thank you. That brings us to the end of this episode, and I think I have learned so much, and I have also realized how little I know about this space. But I think it's a starting point for everyone, right? And you
Yeah,
have like led the way quite a bit, and there's a lot of people, a lot of artists who are looking up to you and who are looking at this, this entire this process as something, as a meaningful end to their art. Not end, so to speak, but like a meaningful like direction to their art. And I'm hoping to see more of you in the news with more NFTs and doing more work which you relate to, and sticking to your the path that you've created, which has been very niche and very interesting. And again, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know it's early there, so I'm glad that we finally got to do this episode, because it's been in the works for so many months now.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Kaber. It's been lovely speaking to you, and I will keep bugging you with questions about NFTs if I have any. And
Sure.
I just wanted to ask you, would you be open to other artists reaching out to you for advice on this?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know how useful my advice will be, but like, I can go on like rants anytime. So
No, because I can give it to you in writing that there will be people who would be interested. So if that's the case, then I can ask them to reach out to me, and then I can connect them with you. Because I don't want to publicize your email ID. So if that's fine with you, then I can do that.
I'm very accessible on social media in general, Sandhya. So
Okay.
anybody who messages me on Instagram typically gets a response.
Perfect.
Yeah. Typically I respond to everything. And like there have been times when I've sent like unsolicited voice notes to people, like it's just like, so I'm generally like very
You're
easy.
quite accessible that way.
Yeah.
Good. Great. So then boring people like lawyers, we stick to the email route. I mean, I do respond to DMs as well, but I will definitely put your Instagram handle in the show notes. And once again, I'm really happy that we had this chance to talk, and thank you so much. It's been an incredible 2 hours and very insightful one. And let's stay in touch. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Until the next episode. See you soon.